Earnings season for Japan's biggest companies is in full swing. Investors are especially watching how the weak yen is affecting the bottom line.
Why aren't Japanese automakers embracing electric cars? Take big Japanese car companies like Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi and Suzuki for example. They are hesitant to jump in. What exactly is the reason? Toyota, the biggest car maker globally, yet they only have one electric car called the BZ4X. Honda and Nissan have a couple, but Mitsubishi and Suzuki have none at all. Instead, Toyota is putting its money into other energy types like flex fuel and hydrogen fuel cell. But is their caution justified? Electric cars shouldn't be forced on everyone as the only green option. Plug-in hybrids might be the best for the next 20 to 40 years. Imagine a car that can run fully on electricity for your daily commute, making cities quieter and cleaner. For longer trips, you can switch to fuel, giving you better mileage than traditional gas cars. Also, the smaller batteries make the car lighter and charges faster. But will this be the future? Instead of what's popularly said here, we believe plug-in hybrid electric cars are just a temporary fix. Electric cars have fewer moving parts than plug-in hybrids, so they might cost less to keep up and be more reliable over time. Plug-in hybrids are heavier and have more complicated software, making them costlier to maintain. Having two power systems in one car makes it more likely to have problems. If you think some car brands are unreliable now, just wait until they start making plug-in hybrids. Instead, we should focus on things like dense solid-state batteries and sodium-ion batteries which won't need lithium, cobalt or nickel. Even though sodium-ion batteries aren't as packed as LFP batteries, research is moving fast and we're about to make some big discoveries. At the end of the day, it's all about money. If profit's tied to electric car adoption and there's nothing to lose by leaving behind traditional gas cars, then there's a lot of talk about how great electric cars are. On the other hand, if profits depend on keeping gas cars around, then you come up with complicated theories to explain why gas or hybrid cars are better for the environment. Ironically, all the talk about electric cars has actually helped hybrid cars a lot. Hybrids give people a sense that they're helping the environment without having to deal with the early problems or uncertainties of electric cars. All the chatter about electric cars has pretty much killed the diesel car market, making budget-conscious buyers turn to hybrids instead. So, hybrid technology is winning over both environmental awareness buyers and those watching their wallets. The electric car market, on the other hand, is mostly for people who like trying new things, and that group is already pretty full. The big change to electric cars hasn't happened as quickly as expected. Electric cars are still the future, but everyone is rethinking when that future will arrive. In the not-so-distant future, Japan seems to be on the right track. Their hybrid technology is really popular now. Since Japan has a lot of investment in traditional gas cars, they're happy to keep the gas and hybrid era going. China might have some trouble because they're pushing electric cars so hard. They tend to make too many and then sell them cheap. Europe's trying to balance things out by doing a bit of everything and hoping their strong brand names will help. Electric cars are definitely the future, but they're not catching on as fast as people thought. Companies like Tesla will still do well, but traditional gas car companies don't need to panic just yet. It'll be interesting to see if newer and better electric car technologies, like the better motors and batteries, will put the early electric car companies at a disadvantage compared to the big gas car companies who are taking a wait-and-see approach. Most Japanese companies play it safe when it comes to business. They focus on making money and keeping the cash flowing. That cautious approach extends to planning new products or entering new markets. Japan's startup scene isn't as exciting as places like the US, Western Europe or China. When it comes to electric cars, there are basically three kinds of companies. Companies like Tesla and Rivian, who got big investments from venture capitalisms or private equity firms. Because they have lots of money, they can afford to wait a long time before making a profit. This isn't so common in Japan. Companies like BYD, NIO and XPeng, who get help from the Chinese government, even if you can't always see it. This helps them make lots of cars cheaply. The Japanese government doesn't usually bend their rules like that. Companies like Ford, GM and the German and Korean car makers, who have a few electric cars in their lineup but still mostly focus on traditional gas cars. Right now, selling electric cars doesn't make much difference to how much money they make. With the way Japanese companies think about business, it doesn't make sense for them to spend lots of money developing electric cars right now. The Japanese understand that building EV infrastructure won't happen overnight, and they think big oil won't let electric cars take over for at least the next 50 years. Hybrid cars seem like the next best option because they're okay with the oil industry and could cut down oil imports by 30 to 40%. Oil is super important for the global economy, and lots of powerful people won't just let electric cars take over and push out fossil fuels. The Japanese have probably done lots of careful thinking and decided that oil isn't going anywhere soon, So the next best thing after regular gas cars is gas cars with a small battery for city driving, also known as hybrids. We are on Team Hybrid. They're a good temporary fix until we're ready for electric cars to be everywhere and have lots of places to charge them, especially for driving around the city and charging at home. Japanese culture is all about respecting older people and valuing their experience. This shows up in lots of Japanese companies and social groups, where older age and more time spent in the group can make you more important. While this can help keep things steady and make careful decisions, it might also make it harder to come up with new ideas or change things quickly when the market changes. Finding the right balance between these things is something many Japanese groups struggle with. Japan has everything going for it to lead the way in electric cars. People make good money. There's a strong car industry, lots of folks buy new cars often, and they generally like new technology. But surprisingly, electric cars only make up a tiny 1.8% of all new cars sold in Japan in the last year. Recently, Bloomberg looked into 31 countries that have really embraced fully electric cars. Now, let's check out the places where things aren't moving along as quickly as you'd think. The US and South Korea, for instance, are kind of their own category. Even though electric cars make up more than 5% of new car sales in other places, they're still not picking up speed in these countries. We'll dive into that a bit more in a bit. Latin America hasn't gotten much attention from electric car makers, at least until recently. Not a single country there has hit the 5% mark for electric car sales, even though places like Chile, Argentina, Brazil and Mexico seem like they should be close. Based on how much people make and other factors, that should make electric cars popular. In Europe, countries like Russia, Poland and the Czech Republic are in a similar situation, moving slowly on electric cars. But the biggest surprise comes from Japan. Even though it seems like the perfect place for electric cars to take off, they're actually way behind, according to experts. Japan's been slow to catch on, and even Tesla's CEO Elon Musk has noticed. He said Japan's not very aware of electric cars, and that Tesla's market share there is way lower than it should be. Japan's lagging behind partly because they bet big on hydrogen fuel cell technology about 10 years ago. That didn't really work out, and now they're missing out on the electric car revolution that's happening everywhere else. While electric cars like Tesla are popular in the US, Japan's still mostly selling smaller electric cars, like the Nissan Sakura, which costs around $13,300 and can go about 180 kilometers on a charge. In South Korea, they're facing similar problems with electric cars. Even though they passed the 5% mark for electric car sales a couple of years ago, they're still not selling very many. Lots of people there live in tall apartment buildings, and it's hard for them to charge their cars at home. And they're worried about safety, especially after some reports of battery fires. Ironically, companies like Hyundai and Samsung, which help build all those tall buildings in South Korea, are now facing challenges from electric cars. In the US, electric cars are also struggling to catch on, even though there are more models available now with longer ranges. People there still want cars that can go really far on one charge, and they're just starting to get more options. But things are changing. Do you think the whole dilemma is fair? Share with us in the comments below, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.